Thank you. Awesome. Okay, everyone. Good evening and welcome. Thank you very much for joining us on this cold London evening. Welcome to OWASP London chapter. This is a hybrid meetup because we are live streaming everything which is on the screen to our YouTube channel. And today we are hosted by fantastic Just Eat. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Stepanyan. I'm OWASP London chapter leader. We have 3 OWASP chapter leaders, myself, Sherif, Mansour here, and we have Andra at the back. We have Andra. So if you are going to tweet or share on social media tonight's event, we encourage you to do it. Do take pictures of slides, do talk to speakers, and share your impressions from tonight's talks and what you've learned. Please use hashtag OWASP London, and you can mention us using OWASP London because that's who we are on Twitter, Facebook, and everywhere else. Agenda for tonight, we're going to say a few words about OWASP, what OWASP is, what we do, and share with you some updates on the events and conferences happening and also some projects. Then we're going to have Disha from Just Eat to talk to us about data-led approach to cybersecurity. Then we're going to have Tanya to talk about DevSecOps worst practices. Followed by Q&A, of course. And then we're going to have a short break. And after that break, we're going to have Shruti to talk to us about how people write insecure code and other stories. So there's a lot of... the theme today is how not to do stuff, but I'm sure you will learn how to do stuff properly. And we hope to finish by 9 p.m., after which we're going to go to the pub. So there is a pub outside called Viaduct Tavern, but there's one which is just outside as well. We'll see how cold it is and whether we'll be able to squeeze into one pub as well. By the show of hands, how many of you are here for the first time ever? Wow, wonderful. So thank you very much. You managed to find us. To make sure you don't miss the next event, please make sure you follow us because we are everywhere. We are online. So we are on owasp.org website, owasp.org/London. We do have an old-fashioned mailing list. So if you prefer to get an email and get notified when we have our next event on, please sign up. The link to it is on our website. You can follow us on Twitter. You can like us on Facebook. You can also subscribe to our Slack. We have owaspslack.com, OWASP Slack, and we have Chapter London page there. If you need a Slack invite, please talk to me because I'll tell you the URL how to get there. We're also on Meetup, which is OWASP London. We do have a YouTube channel where we publish all the talks and where this event is currently being live streamed as well. So please do subscribe because it has about 140 talks right now, 140 videos. I think we've done more because we started live streaming a little bit later, but I think probably misses only one event, and that is, well, you know which event it is.
Yes. You don't have to remind me that. Yeah. Started from WorldPay. We did our first live
That's
stream,
right.
yeah.
That's right. We're also on LinkedIn. I know a lot of you came here because you saw the announcement on LinkedIn. And we're also on Eventbrite as OWASP London chapter. I'm going to play a quick 1-minute video which tells you what OWASP is.
OWASP is a nonprofit that stands for the Open Web Application Security Project. OWASP is a community of developers, technologists, and evangelists improving the security of software through tools and resources. OWASP has 100+ active projects, and new project applications are submitted weekly. Projects are open source and are built by our community of volunteers, people just like you. Community and networking. There are hundreds of local chapters worldwide and thousands of members. Meetings are free and open to everyone. They include training, talks, and networking opportunities. Education and training. OWASP hosts many events each year. They are a great way to improve your skills, build your professional network, and learn about new trends in the industry. One of the many ways you can get involved is to become a member. The membership benefits include discounts for events and trainings, your own OWASP email address and Google Workspace access, a vote in our OWASP Global Board elections. And recently, OWASP added a brand new member benefit: access to hands-on application security training through the OWASP Secure Flag Open Platform. Join us and become a member today.
So Secure Flag is one of the benefits available. There are also a few other benefits available as well, and we're constantly adding them on the OWASP membership portal. Well, of course, you've seen the membership information. At the moment, membership costs $50 per year. For students, it's $20 per year. You can also become a corporate supporter if you represent the company and you want your company logo to appear on OWASP.org, because we show logos of our sponsors on all the OWASP web pages and all the resources. And OWASP website is one of the most popular cybersecurity websites, getting millions and millions of hits. If you would like to become a member and find out about membership, you can just go to owasp.org/membership or just click on the join button from our website. There's one other benefit that you can get, which you can only get from me, because I have access to this exclusive sticker for your laptops, and the sticker has been discontinued, so you cannot get it at any other OWASP event, I can assure you. But if you go to owasp.org and sign up as a member and show me the confirmation email that you've signed up, I'm going to give you this sticker, which I have with me. So that is, of course, a great way to join and learn about application security. I want to say a big thank you to our corporate supporters. We have lots and lots of them worldwide. There are also corporate supporters which specifically support our chapter, and you can see their logos on the screen. I'd like to say a big thank you to them. If you represent the company and you want to sponsor these meetups, for example, if you have a venue just like this one with big screens, microphones, webcams, and good Wi-Fi, please do come and talk to us. And maybe we'll have our next event at your venue. I also want to say a big thank you to all our meeting supporters. And of course, tonight we're at this wonderful facility at Just Eat. So let's, by the round of applause, can say a big thank you to Just Eat for hosting us tonight. And of course, my colleague and chapter co-leader, Sherif Mansour, is not only the leader of OWASP chapter, he's not only a very cool cybersecurity guy, not just a guy who found lots of CVs in Microsoft and contributed a lot of great blogs on LinkedIn. He is also a director of information security here at Just Eat. So I'm going to pass the mic to him to say a couple of words about Just Eat and this wonderful venue.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone. And thank you, Sam. And also congratulations to Sam for joining the OWASP board and for all the time and effort that it means and the contributions that we've done through all the 8 years. And so deeply, thank you. And for me, it's an honor and privilege to have all of you attendees, old and new, to this event. It's funny enough, before I even worked for Just Eat, I come here for hosting events, and deeply in this team's and this company's culture is a love for technology, obviously a passion for food, and also a passion for open source. So the reason, for example, we didn't have this meetup on Wednesday, which would have been a little bit better, was actually because there was another meetup that was hosted, and every now and then I pop in and see what other meetups are happening, and one of them, sure enough, I saw Sam in there. It's like, you're in my office and you didn't even tell me. So it's really great to see, and to see all of you in this new venue, which you just renovated in September. So just a little bit of admin, and I'll just finish really quickly. So obviously you've had the food over there. The bathrooms are by the elevators to the far end to the right. So they're at the back of the elevators if you need to. Yeah, please enjoy the event. My team might be hiring soon in the future on the platform security team. If you're interested there, please talk to me whenever you need to. There's no rush. And with that, over to you, Sam.
Okay, thanks very much, Sherif. now, just to remind you that we do have a membership portal, which was launched quite recently. This is one of the things that we have. And here's something unique that I only do here at London. So those of you who attended before know that I give out an NFT. So there is a something called Proof of Attendance Protocol of POP. And someone said, oh, this is a really good application for a blockchain because, this is kind of your digital certificate of attendance, but this is the one that you capture in your cryptocurrency wallet. So if you have a wallet, come and see me, and you can collect it by scanning QR code. And this proves to everyone on the public blockchain that the owner of the wallet was here. So it's great application for blockchain, but also you keep this POP in your wallet as well. And if you don't have a wallet, you can download multiple ones. So Trust Wallet is one of the open source crypto wallets which supports NFTs and proof of attendance. So I've been giving away these POP NFTs the whole year last year. So this is going to be the 9th one. So this is just Pokemon. You got to go catch them all. And what is great about this, because you can prove that you're here digitally, we can actually use this fact later on, and if you've collected a few of them, we can give you some other cool benefits in the future. Another great thing about OWASP is we've launched our merch store. So if you'd like to buy some merch featuring OWASP logo, you can go to owasp.org/store, and you can see there are some logos with 20th anniversary. So OWASP's 20th anniversary was in 2021, but we have our own 20th anniversary that we're going to talk about in a minute, because OWASP London chapter has been running for 20 years this year. So for those of you who is here for the first time, this is your first meetup. These events have been going on since 2004. They started in a pub in Holborn 20 years ago. And to celebrate this event, we're going to celebrate this occasion, right? We're going to have, I'm going to invite Andra to tell everyone what we're going to do to celebrate this.
Thanks, Sam. So this is just a tiny announcement from me. You guys should save the date and make sure that you get a ticket for this meetup. We're going to invite the three founders of OWASP London to speak, and we're just finalizing the details on this awesome event. So yeah, looking forward to seeing you there.
And where is it going to be?
At Google, King's Cross.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Andra. Wonderful. So big announcements on the conferences. So as you probably know, OWASP runs 3 big global conferences per year, one in Europe, one in the United States, and one in Asia. So the next big conference is going to be in Lisbon in June. So if you want to speak at that conference, it's not too late to submit your talk proposal. So the talk proposals the call for papers will open on 20th of January. Also, if you represent a company and you want to have a booth and you have a sponsorship presence there, please do visit the OWASP Lisbon website, and you will find out how you can have a sponsorship presence there as well. Now there will be another big OWASP Global Conference in San Francisco as well. So I know a lot of you come from companies which have American origin. So again, your headquarters might want to sponsor these events. And the Asia event is not yet announced, but usually it's hopefully we'll find out about in around June time. So that's the announcement on the events. Now, projects, as you know, OWASP is known for its free and open source projects all about cybersecurity and educating people about cybersecurity. We have over 250 open source projects. I'm not going to talk about all of them, I'm just going to give you a very quick update. Everyone is talking about AI these days. So we do have an OWASP top 10 for large language models, which I talked about before. But there are a few other projects around how to secure AI and to bring all these emerging standards and the projects and guidelines together. OWASP has launched this website called owaspai.org. And this provides you with navigator for you to basically find the guideline and standard that you are after, or maybe contribute yourself if you're an active contributor in the AI space. There's another announcement about projects. Those of you who know a project called Mod Security. Mod Security was, technically speaking, owned by TrustWave. And literally days ago, there was an announcement that TrustWave will stop supporting mod security, and they decided to hand over the custodianship of it back to the open source community, and that will be to us, to OWASP Foundation, which is I think absolutely fantastic move. So if those of you who work with mod security, it's now going to be maintained by OWASP. Now, there's quite a lot of you, and we'll try to take questions from you using mics. But again, you can also ask questions using Slido website. So if you go to slido.owasp, you can type your question, and we will make sure that these questions get asked. The same website can be used also by the people watching this event live on YouTube. And of course, the YouTube Q&A is also available. Now, I would like to invite the first speaker on stage, which is Disha. Hi, Disha. Disha is the security data engineer here at Just Eat. And let me just load her slides here. There you go. Disha is a microphone. And let's all give Disha a warm welcome. And your clicker. Use this one?
No. I'm gone. Hello, cyber nerds. No, you have to close this. It's not turned off. It's not turned off. Hello, cyber nerds. Today we merged the path of. Sorry for the glitch.
Yeah, should be good now.
Welcome. Hopefully you can hear me properly now. Yeah. Welcome, cyber wizards. Today we merge the path of data and security, unraveling the nuances of safeguarding our digital landscape. As security data engineer in InfoSec, I don't claim to have all the answers, but I have a unique perspective towards how this domain works and how we can build the robust digital defense. Our goal today is to explore the synergy between data and security, ensuring every interaction is safe and convenient. Are you ready for this journey towards secure, seamless, and digital experiences? Yes. Yeah, you're hearing then. So my topic is data-led approach to cybersecurity. Ever wondered what happens behind the scene of the world of cybersecurity? Join me as I unveil the insight on my journey at Just Eat. Let's uncover some mysteries and talk about how we can make sure that data is safe. Before kick this thing off, can I ask a few questions? How often do you think the security of data? No, I know. Do you ever wonder how we tackle ever-growing challenges when it comes to data in cybersecurity? Not really? Do you ever wonder if there is any easier way to analyze the data, which we have a lot, I think, in security? And most importantly, who here is looking for something where they can use it and analyze this thing, have a strategy with them when they leave this room? Yes. Thank you. So let me start with what's in the agenda today. I will be exploring some of the challenges. Then I will be describing the strategy and then implementation of those data-led strategy. Always we have to talk about something future. So we will talk in something about future and some conclusion of all those things. I will be opening for Q&A later on. And then we will be wrapping this thing up. So starting with exploring cybersecurity challenges. In our digitized world, the significance of cybersecurity cannot be overstated. Today, I have to delve into the realm of cybersecurity and highlight some prevalent issues like data overload, insider threat modeling, and delayed threat detection and insider threats, and proposing a data-led strategy as a beacon of hope. Shall we start with data overload? I think you guys need to know what happens with data. So one of the primary predicament haunting the cybersecurity domain is data overload. In an era where information is generated at unprecedented rate, we find ourselves flooded with data, large amount of security data, and the challenge lies that not only it's the quantity, it's the how they are not able to analyze those data. So inability to analyze and manage this flood. Traditional methods, often reactive and rule-based, fall short in the cope of this sheer volume of data, leading to an overwhelming task of distinguishing between normal behavior and potential threats. So that's why we have to find some solution, and we will be describing the solution later on in this talk. Moving to another issue, which is delayed threat detection. Relentless evolution of cyber threats presents another inflation challenge: delayed threat detection. Traditional methods such as signature-based evolution and rule-based systems were once effective, now shows signs of strain. And identification of security breach is often delayed, allowing malicious actors to operate within our systems for extended periods. Reactive response strategies were once norm, are now proving as their liabilities and increasing the vulnerabilities to the sophisticated cyber threats. Allow me to illustrate the gravity of issue with the real-life case study. In recent cyber attack, a major financial institution due to delayed threat detection, resulted with substantial financial losses and reputational damage. The traditional reactive approach failed to swiftly identify and mitigate the breach, and highlighting this critical, and that's highlight that we have to have a proactive approach towards it. Insider threat. One of the most insidious challenges faced by an organization is difficulty tackling insider threat. The notion of threat can happen within our organization adds a layer of complexity. Identifying malicious activities originating from individual within the organization possesses a significant challenge. The lack of effective mechanism to prevent or mitigate insider threats compound the issue, leaving the organization exposed for a potential internal risk. I have talked about so much problem, like you are like, why we are doing this? So now, as we acknowledge these frightening challenges, it's imperative to shift the focus towards solution-oriented strategy, and the path forward lies with data-less strategy. That's my talk. And leverages the power of information for a more robust and adaptive cybersecurity posture. In a world where data is target and a shield, a data-led strategy becomes a backbone for effective cybersecurity measure. By harnessing the wealth of information at disposal, and we can confront the challenges head-on. So we are here now discussing about the data-led strategy. Before I delve into that, the strategies, I want to point out why this shift is crucial, why this shift is needed in the first place. So I want to discuss about what the data-driven strategy, why the data-driven strategy is important. So starting with navigating complexity. The digital realm is a complex ecosystem of data networks, constantly evolving. In a response to a sophisticated cyber threat, our data strategy becomes crucial, and as it allows us to navigate this complexity with agility and adaptability, recognizing that a traditional method might fall short in the face of modern challenges. Second is strategic defense, where imagine strategically defending against emerging cyber threats, not just reacting, but also anticipating and proactively mitigating the potential risk. This is precisely what a data-led strategy empowers an organization to achieve. By utilizing data analytics, we gain insight that enables us to develop defense measures and strategically staying one step ahead of our cyber adversaries. Let me share a compelling statistics that emphasizes the impact of strategic defense. According to a recent study, organizations implementing a data-led strategy experienced a 30% reduction in the average time to detect and respond to cyber threats, compared to those who are relying solely on traditional method. This is strategic approach enhances overall cyber resilience and providing a tangible advantage in ever-evolving digital landscape. And the next topic where I want to discuss is role of data. The pivotal role of data is in the cybersecurity landscape cannot be overstated. It's not just information, it's about transforming that information into shield. And by actively defending our digital realm. In the face of cyber threat, the strategic utilization of data becomes linchpin of the effective threat detection, incident response, and overall cyber resilience. So we know the importance of data-driven decision strategy. Now we can discuss how these strategies can help the previous issues which we have talked about. Effective data management. An effective data management is a system and a data-driven system culture underpinned by education and skill development as they are instrumental in addressing the challenge of data overload. By leveraging advanced analytics and artificial intelligence, organizations can streamline the process of ingesting, managing, analyzing, and reporting on vast security data set in real time. This ensures more precise and proactive cybersecurity approach. At JET, the task of analyzing billions of customer interaction for security threats indeed challenging. However, by adopting a data-led strategy and implementing advanced analytics, we can identify unusual pattern quickly. This not only enhances the data security, but also aligns with the wisdom of former AWS leader if you have to do something 3 times automated. And this approach allows us to automate repetitive tasks, freeing up resource for more strategic events and further strengthening our cybersecurity posture. Moving on to address the delayed threat detection, we have a strategy called swift threat detection, which is more proactive in nature, and by leveraging the vast and curated data sets, machine learning models, we can responsibly implement to enable a real-time identification and response to security breaches. This approach replaces the reactive nature of traditional methods with a more proactive stance, significantly minimizing the window of opportunity for malicious actors. In the context of JET, our system had a malware that went undetected due to traditional method. If an AI-driven detection approach would have identified and neutralized it faster. This is not only reduced data risk, but also enhances the overall security posture of the system. We will discuss about the insider threat mitigation for the insider threat issue. When it comes to insider threat, a data-less strategy proves a game changer. Behavioral analytics ingrained in approach allows organizations to create a detailed profile of user behavior. The dynamic profiling facilitates the identification of anomalies and potential insider threat. By continually monitoring user behavior in organization, we can prevent and mitigate risk from arising from within and ensuring a more and trustworthy environment, more secure and trustworthy environment. To detect insider threat at JET, behavioral analytics can identify unusual data access pattern by employees, focusing solely on the security-related behaviors. Privacy is ensured, limiting monitoring to work-related activities and being transparent with employees about what monitoring policies are. This approach balances the effective threat detection with respect for employees' privacy. So that's how we balances privacy versus. I'm talking for a long time. If you have any question, I can, and then I can go for implementation. Okay. Now, implementation of data-less strategy. Now we know the significance of why it's needed, how it can help, and we have to be practical about it. So let's start weaving the journey of data strategy in the cybersecurity, and I will be breaking it down into easy talk where you can understand, because I'm very new to the InfoSec team, and you guys are new to data, I guess. So starting with data. So starting with data starts with data collection, data storage, and data processing, where first we like to gather the information we have and with the company safety, and then identify what data really matter for cybersecurity, such as log data, network traffic data, user behavior data, setting up the system that constantly collect the data. It's like regularly health check for the company. Then once we decide what data we are working on, we start with the data storage. So we all have all the information, but we don't know where to place now. So we have to find a way. So we need some storage, and think about is that a secure place at your home where you can store this data. And in this case, we consider using data lake for flexibility. It is having a storage space, but it can adapt. And just make sure when you're storing a data, it should be safe and complies with the privacy regulation. We don't want any data which is causing trouble or not going through GDPR or anything. Then we started with data. Now we have to know the data, because if we start and we don't go in and dig deeper that what we are going to do about data, then it comes to data analysis and threat detection. Sorry, I left the one. Sorry, data processing. Once we store the data, moving to data processing, it's like getting tools organized and ready for the project. Cleaning up the data, just like tidying up with your tools. Get rid of unnecessary noise, handle the missing pieces, normalize the data, and ensure that data is a clean canvas when you start and do the analysis on it. Now, getting to know the data. Data analysis. Data analysis is about finding insight in your data. It's like shining the light of hidden patterns. This involves statistical analysis, machine learning, and basically using tools to uncover valuable information. Start easy with anomaly detection and pattern recognition. Spot the potential threats, and without getting lost in tech maze. Then we go to threat detection. Once we have the analysis in hand, we will do the threat detection. Think it as a watchful eye for potential cybersecurity threat. It's like looking for the first sign of trouble on the horizon. Use the insight for the analysis and spot the thing which can cause problem at all. Anomaly detection and pattern recognition can be helpful tool in this case. Once we know the data, how we grow with the data, because it can grow tremendously fast with security. So we have to do response and mitigation, and there will be a continuous improvement on that one. Now, what we do when there's a threat, it's the response where that's the place where response and mitigation comes in place. It's creating a plan of action for your cybersecurity strategy. Develop ways to respond to threat and minimize their impact. This might involve installing alerting system and whatnot. Things think it as an alarm to warn about any potential danger. And then once we have response and mitigation in place, we have to go for continuous improvement and treat it as a strategy, like a living, evolving plan, refine and improve based on feedback and results. It's like upgrading your strategy to be more effective over time. Remember, this is a team effort, and you have to need people who are cybersecurity experts, data experts, and have a good IT infrastructure. Train your team well and follow the best practices for your data in cybersecurity. Consider it as a guidebook for the all digital security team. In a nutshell, as we embark on the data-led strategy in cybersecurity, remember, every step is a building block. It might seem like a lot, but with right mindset and trained team and a clear plan, you will gradually tackle each phase in your data journey. Thank you. Future trends and data-led strategies. So no discussion today can happen without addressing influence of AI in our life. So you tell me, I am very new to cybersecurity, you tell me, what are the future trends for cybersecurity world? I have one in my armor, but tell me more so that I can learn from you guys. How about quantum computing? Yeah. Quantum computing. So I'm just taking the names so that I can do the research. Any future trends which you have in mind? Yeah?
I'm actually a bit scared that in the world where AI is so easily accessible and any university student can literally farm data from everything they know about your company and what they know about other companies, including zero-hour abilities, and they can attack your company and your data, so it's much easier now and in a much robust way. How do you make sure that your data protection, the cybersecurity and data thing, that it actually works?
It's a question. We can answer.
So the question is, how do we make sure that the data protection, our cybersecurity strategy, that it's correct one, that it's up to date, that it actually works?
It has. Sorry. So we have to make sure it's everyone has no one has individual access and all, and we have to give something where it's not open to everyone. It's just limited to people, and we have to try that. So let's start with the future trends, which I have to discuss. So I won't bore you with the commonplace discussion about omnipresence of AI. Instead, I just have to explore one topic. Today, there is one fascinating intersection of technology, which is generative AI with reverse engineering for context of cybersecurity. So Gen AI, we are listening about this thing for almost 2 years now. Generative AI is a subset of artificial intelligence where a system can generate new data samples that have similar input. It's like teaching a machine to be creative, to generate new ideas based on pattern it has learned. Now let's delve into how Gen AI can aid the reverse engineering in cybersecurity. Firstly, it can help in automation of malware analysis. Gen AI can automate the process of understanding complex malicious software. It generates new data sample based on patterns it can learn from malwares, aiding in understanding the malware's behavior, origin, and potential impact. Secondly, Gen AI can excel in pattern recognition and prediction, which I talked about, like we need pattern recognition a lot. So it identifies the pattern of malware code that may be missed in human analysis. It can also predict future malware behavior based on this pattern and leading to more accurate identification of potential vulnerabilities and effective countermeasures. Lastly, it helps on adaptive learning and generation. So as GenAI analyzes more malware samples, it learns and improves, and it's the direction and detection and analysis of all the capabilities it has. It can generate new data or even potential malwares for testing and strengthening our countermeasures. This is a continuous learning and generation and make it more effective over the time. GenAI can be a powerful tool to revolutionize the field of reverse engineering in cybersecurity, making it more efficient, accurate, and adaptive to the ever-revolving landscape of cyber threats. So I will give some call to action to you guys. Apply the insights, what we have learned today. Use the data-led strategies. Fortify these digital practices into your organization and security. Share the vision, share the knowledge, whatever you gain. Try to influence your network to adopt proactively to cybersecurity measures. Stay ahead. Try to embrace the emerging trends in cybersecurity. Keep learning, keep adapting to ensure ongoing protection against ever-evolving threats. In conclusion, exploration of cybersecurity reveals challenges in data overload, data delayed threat, and insider threat. And a robust data-led strategy emerged as a beacon of hope. As we implement these strategies, we embrace future trends like Gen AI. Remember your role, secure your digital space, share your knowledge, and stay informed. Let's collectively shape a safer digital future. Thanks for your journey.
Yep. Thanks. Hi, Disha. How are you?
Hi, boss.
So, can you tell us more about what is OCSF and what challenges does it try to solve, and what is it?
So OCSF is one of the data models which is normalized for all the security people. So it's a framework which you use. OCSF stands for Open Cybersecurity Framework. And it has been developed so that we can model it and use it for our own goodwill. So right now we are using this thing in our project as well, where we are trying to model some data which we got. Right now we are using one source, and we have made some data modeling using the OCSF model. So one of the issues which we got, because we are doing it manually, it takes lots of time. But there are use cases which you can use, like AWS has Security Data Hub, which does this job for us instead of we doing it manually. So there are things which we can outsource if we can't have it done we don't have data engineers, then we can do it.
Yeah, so for reference, one of the challenges is that if you have like one data source or two, that's not really that hard. You join them together and you do your analytics. But if you want to have security as a single pane of glass and have to do all these ETLs and do all the mapping to these data, it becomes overly complex. So a whole bunch of companies came together to create it like this InfoSec data model. So as long as the data is within this framework, you can basically enrich it and analyze it into a single sort of model of it, which is really, really helpful, because that's one of the bigger challenges that we've seen. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Disha? Yeah, that's one.
Yeah, correct.
Yeah, just a quick question about the framework, really, and how much it links in with the existing models, like the Common Information Model in Splunk.
So Splunk is actually a member of OCSF. Sorry. This is your talk.
Yeah,
Why don't you answer that question?
So Splunk is already part of OCSF, and whatever data goes in through Splunk is already OCSF model recognized. And if you want, you can't do it on your own. There's always AWS Security Hub, which will help you do that modeling for you without any issue. Thanks, Greg.
One more question. Yeah, we have one more question here.
Hi, Hi, very nice talk, by the way. Can I ask, how do you make sure that the model used in cybersecurity protections, let's say, for example, that the data is as clean as possible? As you know, nowadays, you can get really polluted data, if I'm allowed to say that, sometimes with certain models. And then obviously that would actually compromise the model for any sort of detections at the end of the day.
So once data is in OCSF model already, then you have to do the cleaning. It can't be done automatically. So you have to do your cleaning bit. It's just they model it, and then it gets ingested in your warehouse or in your data lake. And then you have to do the cleaning bit, and then you can do the analysis on top of it. Hope this answers your question.
Any more questions? Oh, there's one more.
Hi, Disha. Thank you very much for your talk. I remember you had 5 steps. The first one was data analysis. First one, data collection. Fourth one, data analysis. Would there be any data discovery at any or many of those stages?
For data discovery, mostly during the data collection, we do the data discovery, where we try to discover which data you want to work with. So that's what you can call data collection or data discovery. It's same.
And then data structuring would be step 3?
It will be more on data processing part, where you will be normalizing everything.
So for the framework, we are talking about...
data processing.
Yes, would it be straightforward then, and most data would already be in that format, so you wouldn't need to do data discovery?
So whatever the sources you have, you already have some sources, and you want to analyze and do some discoveries on the top of it. So you start with some data source, and then you start with how you are going to and have this thing worked out. So once you have the data discovery done with the source, then you start analyzing what data can help, how data is going to be looked like. So you do all the pre-work before you really start doing the modeling part.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any more questions? No? Oh, one more.
Yeah, thanks very much for that. That was an excellent talk. I was just wondering, in real life, how does this look in an organization? What's the split between data scientists, engineers, and security analysts?
So in my team, I'm one of the data engineer. I'm the only data engineer, and I have a team of 4, and they are very good security engineer. So they help me a lot. So we are working towards for this project for 6 months, and it's going well. And they are capable of doing, because security engineers is kind of come into that Venn diagram where they share some of the knowledge of data engineering, so it can be helpful.
Thank you.
But we have to have one data engineer who can help them.
Any more questions? Okay. Yeah, let's thank Disha for a great talk.
Thank you.
There's too much feedback. All right. Okay, let me get the next talk ready. Okay, so let me introduce Tanya Janca to you. So Tanya comes from Canada. So she flew all the way here to London to be with us tonight. I think Tanya is one of the most well-known faces and voices in application security. She's been doing it for a very, very long time. She's an award-winning blogger, podcaster, educator, a book author. She has a book called Alice and Bob, the Application Security. And a famous blog, She Hacks Purple and We Hack Purple. I might be mistaken, but I think Tanya was the first person who actually coined the color purple as a combination of blue team and red team. I was like, oh, I'm actually in the middle, so I'm doing the purple stuff. And then she started turning up at all these conferences wearing purple. It's like, so I didn't see anyone mentioning purple before Tanya started using it, actually. Tanya, sort of career-wise, has done long stint in all sorts of organizations, including governments like the government of Canada, very big names like Microsoft, where we actually do have to thank Tanya for bringing a lot of OWASP material into Microsoft. And at the moment, she is at SemGrab. And I saw Tanya at the Global AppSec OWASP conference in DC, Washington, DC. And this was absolutely fascinating talk, because I think it's going to make sense a lot to developers and actually people who do try to push security to developers. It's basically, okay, how not to do things. There you go, Tanya. The stage is yours. Welcome.
Thank you so much. Is this the clicker? Is it on? Is it good? Okay, thank you. Hi, everyone. I'm Tanya. Thank you so much for coming, because there's a party out there with booze, and instead you're in here with me, and I appreciate you. So this talk came about because I have too many jobs because I just really like to work. And so one of my jobs is I do consulting 1 to 2 hours a week at this place called IANS Research. And so I've been doing that almost 6 years now. And so I meet with different AppSec teams, and I've met with almost 400 AppSec teams, and I help them with their programs. And so one day one of them was like, hey, instead of telling us what we should do for our DevSecOps program, could you make us a list of what not to do? And so I started doing it, and I just went through all my notes and I was like, wow, I have a lot of stuff. And then I was like, well, maybe I'll write a talk. So all of these, there's 1 or 2 where they're just so absolutely terrible. Only 3 or 4 companies did it, and it made it, but most of them, 10 to 20 companies made this mistake. And so there's 15 things where I'm like, oh, please don't do that. And so that's what this talk's about. So we're going to talk about DevSecOps. We're going to talk about tried, tested, and super duper failed things. I also like walking around a lot. I don't know. I just do. So, oh yeah, I'm supposed to stay in these lines so that they can see me up there. Hi. Okay. So we're also going to talk about how and why not to do these things. So what could we do so these things don't happen to us and we have better experiences? So let's go. So this is your nerd for this evening. I'm Tanya. I felt Sam did a better job of explaining what I do than me. So if I brush my hair, I look pretty good. So I call this resting AppSec face. This is when people have done things where I'm like, oh gosh, what have you done? So when things are not going my way, I make this face. You did what now? What have you done? So part of why I'm showing this is because my definition of DevSecOps doesn't match everyone else's definition. So you have to bear with me because it's my talk, so you get my definition. You don't have to agree with it, but just try not to boo. So an AppSec person who works with all the cool DevOps tools, who works in a DevOps shop, I think is doing DevSecOps. So we're doing the security part of the DevOps. We're trying to help all the awesome DevOps folks arrive at the finish line with a safe, reliable, secure product. That's what I like to think of. I get to automate stuff, hang out with cool dev people. I like it. But a more common definition that I see from all my clients is it's the AppSec person who owns the tools, and they don't think they need to do any other AppSec. And we're going to talk about that. And so now that, there we go. So DevSecOps isn't easy. I think it's really fun, but I don't think it's really easy. Sometimes it goes poorly, and a lot of us don't talk about why because we're under NDA. I have signed, like, I have this folder of like 50 NDAs. It's stupid because I've worked with so many companies and done so many things, and then we can't share data. But because there's so many companies, I was given permission to share. So I'm hoping me giving this talk will encourage some of you to share more lessons, because I don't want us to all have to learn the hard way. So I'm hoping I can encourage you through a bit of self-deprecation and some slides. Okay, so number one, the boy who cried wolf. Oh, wait, no, back. Okay, so this one is about breaking builds on false positives. So this is the one I see the most. So we have, let's say, an old static analysis tool, and we just flip everything on. We don't tune it. We don't take time to make sure it works well. We just shove it into the CI/CD, and then it has all these false positives turning up. And then it breaks the build. And we're not letting the very nice DevOps folks get to prod. That's what all of us want. We want to get to prod. Who here has written code and wanted to go to prod very badly? Oh, not very many hands. Maybe this is why we don't have enough empathy. So for the first 17 years of my career, I did software development, which means really wanting to be good enough to go to prod. And so if you stop me and then I find out it's not real, I'm not pleased. Like, if I've messed something up and made a big problem, that's cool. But if it's false, it's like, so how do we avoid this? There are a bunch of ways. So I work at a vendor, so please take some of what I say with a grain of biased salt. So sometimes you have to take your tool and throw it in the garbage. If you are not getting the results you want, sometimes you need to go back to the drawing board. Sometimes I find I have one tool that was expensive and it works well outside the pipeline, but maybe it's not the right one for inside the pipeline. So I'll get another one. Sometimes I get two, and one of them tests some stuff and one of them tests other stuff. But the key here is that you need to make sure it's not spinning false positives. If you have a tool that spits lots of false positives, all is not lost. But I don't think you should put it in your CI/CD. So what you could do instead is you could run it every Sunday, and then Monday you could come look at those results. You could only run a couple of the tests that it does, so that those ones you know are good, and you run those in the CI/CD and the rest don't go. But every place I've worked where they have lots of false positives in the CI/CD, when you're not looking, they turn it off. And that helps no one, including them. And so that is the first one. Okay, so the next one, untested tools. So software developers test and test and test and test. And we like to make sure everything is good, right? As security folks, we should test. We're testing for false positives. We're testing that it's actually looking at the right things that we need. We're testing that it's going fast enough. We're testing it doesn't crash. We're testing all sorts of things to make sure it goes well. I have seen many places where the security teams, like the vendor said it's awesome, and it has no false positives. And we all know salespeople never exaggerate, ever, and they never lie. And then they put it into the CI/CD without any, they're just like there, and they just put it on blocking mode because they don't like having friends. And then it runs forever, or it crashes, or whatever the thing is that it does. And then you end up with breaking developer trust. And so this might sound odd to test a testing tool, and maybe that sounds a little meta, but I find first what I like to do, and maybe I don't know, I like playing with things. So I'll take so first of all, I find a developer that likes me and tolerates me. Then I say, can I copy your CI/CD? So I take a copy of their CI/CD, and then I remove the parts where I release stuff so I'm not messing up their crap. And then I copy my tool in and I run it, and it's awful the first time usually. It's like doing weird things, I'm not sure. And then I play with it and I tune it and I play with it until I'm like, okay, it's going pretty fast. I'm getting a result I think I like. Seems not bad. Then I show the dev, the tolerant dev, the one that likes me. And then if they think it's cool, then I'm like, can we maybe put it in production? Like, so and by production for them, right? So in their real live CI/CD that releases stuff to prod. And then if that's going well, then I'm like, can we show other devs that also are tolerant of me? And then once some of them have it, then it's like, okay, can we roll this out to everyone? And so I know that that takes more time, but you lose fewer friends. And when we break the trust with the software developers, we not only don't get invited to cool stuff like this, but you don't get invited to the threat model. You don't get invited to the kickoff meeting. You never saw that architecture design because they're avoiding you because you do untested tools. Okay, so next, artificial gates. I wrote a blog post about this. So I remember talking to some people and they're like, we can't wait for the CI/CD. And I was like, awesome, you love DevOps too? Because I'm a dev, so I think it's awesome. When I discovered DevOps, I'm like, this is the best. And they're like, yeah, because we're going to break all the builds. And I was like, tell me more. And they're like, we're not allowed having gates anymore. So they make pretend gates. So they just always break it. So you have to come talk to them. And they kind of want the devs to grovel. Has anyone worked somewhere where you're a dev and you're kind of expected to grovel to get to prod? Yeah, okay, so someone's honest. And it's like, here's like 37 hoops and we just enjoy watching you go through them. Most of them don't mean anything. And so this artificial gate thing is where it's like, I've been told I'm not allowed gates, but they're going too fast for me. So I will slow them down and pretend it's the CI/CD. I will pretend it is my testing tool. I will pretend all these things because I'm not able to go as fast as you, and I can't let you get your job done. Everyone's going to come down to my speed. And this sucks. This leads to not awesome culture. This leads to a lot of resentment. And I didn't know what to call it other than an artificial gate, but where they're trying to reinforce the thing that they were told they're not allowed doing anymore. Has anyone seen this, the artificial gate, where they're told they're not allowed gating anymore, but they made all these breakpoints that aren't supposed to be there? So I'm the only person. Maybe you're seeing it and you're not calling it that. Mm-hmm. Oh, not the DevOps person, the security person, yeah. So they put, basically in the CI/CD, they add a thing where you have to come and talk to them. So it just gets to a certain point, it needs a manual approval. And it's like, there's not supposed to be manual approvals in this. It's like, oh, well, you have to come talk to me. And you talk to them, and it's like, okay, what? Well, I want you to fill out this piece of paper. Why didn't you ask for the piece of paper earlier? Like, when did this piece of paper become part of the process? And there's just the things where they stop you along the way so that you can't get to prod as fast as you want to, but without a formalized process that's approved. So they're kind of making it up. Does that make sense? Cool. Okay. Oh, there we go. Instead of creating a policy to create a gating process, you abuse the CI/CD to make your own gate. That would have been helpful. Okay, so missing test results. So I was actually talking to some people earlier about this today. So there are certain types of tools. So there's tools that I like better where they can cut tickets directly into your GitHub issues or a Jira ticket or Bugzilla or whatever it is that you want to use to keep track of your bugs. I like that a lot. Some of them will send you an email with a PDF, and I'm like, okay, I will take that. But then some of them are on a server somewhere, and they're behind a firewall, and you have to RDP into it. Then you need an account. Then you need MFA. Then your account expired. And then finally you get in, and then there's like everyone's test results, and then you try to find yours. And then you find your apps, and then you're like, which part was the part Tanya was talking about? This is what I mean when I say missing test results. Like when you run a CI/CD, you just see your results in it. And so being able to just, so who here kicks off their CI/CD and then sits there and watches it? Yeah, I like to sit there. I'm just like, all right. And then I can see the results. I can see what's happening. I'm like, oh, this failed. What have I done? Right? Or, oh, this passed. I'm awesome. And I watch it go through, and then I can see the results right there. But imagine it's like fail, and you're like, okay. And it's like, I'm not going to tell you what's happening. You have to jump through all these hoops, and then you can see the results. Devs don't fix those bugs very often. They don't do all the extra steps. You will get better so to avoid this, make your tool show the results in the CI/CD. If it can't show it there, have it send an email or go directly into your GitHub issues or wherever it is you track these things. Yeah, Jira, Bugzilla, all the things. But if they have to do something totally outside the way that they work, totally outside the tool set that they're used to using, a lot of them aren't going to do it. They're just not going to do it. And so I was talking earlier about this tool that we were paying $160,000 for per year, and then we looked, and no one had logged in 6 months. And that is why bugs were not getting fixed. And they're like, oh, it's really hard, blah, blah, blah. So this is a thing we can avoid by just making it visible to them as easily as possible. So runaway tests. So we talked about untested tools, but specifically this is about tests that run for frickin' ever. If the CI/CD takes 8 minutes to run, and then I come along and I'm like, I bought a whatever. It usually ends in AST, whatever it is that you bought. And then I put it in, and then it takes till tomorrow to run. It takes hours and hours and hours. That's not okay. And I've had a lot of security folks tell me, oh, well, that's how long security tools take. No, I don't care. Devs have things to do. They're not going to wait for you. And this is another time where they're just going to turn it off when you're not looking. I've seen it a lot of times where they turn it off. And so if you have a tool that runs really slow, you have choices. You can get a different tool that runs faster. You can run that tool overnight and then look at the results in the morning. You can have an asynchronous pipeline. So you have a release pipeline, and you test all the things you think are important enough that you must know before prod. But then you have the super slow test that runs 18 hours, and it does not, no one's waiting on you, but it's automated to run, and you see that report when it's done. Another thing you can do is you can take your tool, look through all the tests it runs, and just uncheck, turn off all the tests that aren't truly important to you. I had another thought of a thing you could do, and I forget now. But there's, I forget. That's okay. I have lots more to say. And so another thing, yes, that's the thing. They use up resources. So while I'm running this really slow tool that goes on and on and on, no one else gets to run their tests. And depending upon the way you're doing it, maybe you're monopolizing the dev server so no one else can do stuff there. If you can run those things after work, if you can run those things out of band, if you can try not to be annoying to everyone else on your team. So I'm saying this because I did it. I did most of these things, and I definitely did this one. And my open source project team for the DevSlop project with OWASP, they're very patient with me. But eventually they're like, Tanya, why do you have to have so many tools and why do they run so slow? And so that's when I learned I had to go faster. Impossible service level agreements. So this is going to sound super obvious when I explain it from my viewpoint, but I see it over and over again, so it's not actually obvious to everyone. And I think it's obvious because I want you to think what I think. And so that is, so there are, so the first time I buy a tool and I scan something, it's going to have bugs, right? Like almost everywhere, it's going to find something wrong. I like to call that the baseline or the legacy bugs, the bugs that were already there, pre-tool bugs. Then anything past then are new bugs. I like to have a service level agreement for both. So the old bugs, so let's say I'm scanning something. I scanned something once that was 38 years old, and I was 39 at the time, so I had seniority, but it was a really old app, right? It had a lot of bugs. And I remember the guy's like, oh, the other AppSec guy said, I'm not allowed pushing any new code till I've fixed every single high in the app. There were 308, I think, highs. And he's like, I've fixed 10, and he won't let me push them to prod because we don't push high things to prod. And so he wasn't allowed releasing his 10 fixes because they don't release highs to prod. And I'm like, yeah, but they're already in prod, dum-dum. So to me, it felt obvious we're getting better, we're improving, right? So so my service level agreement deal that I did with them and that I like to do is for the old ones, we're going to try to chip away at whatever you're at. So maybe you have tons of criticals, maybe you have highs, maybe you have mediums, whatever it is. So we're going to try to chip away at those a little bit at a time. But for new ones, nothing above low, unless we've decided to accept that risk, right? So either we've accepted the risk because we don't really feel it's a thing, or the scanner says low. And then you have 2 service level agreements technically, right? But then you can fix old stuff. And this might sound silly to you that someone would stop you from putting lots of bugs in. Well, I have this friend, and I was consulting at a place like just a couple hours a week for 2 years. And I left to do something else, and I got her to replace me, and she was doing full-time AppSec for a year. And she's like, Tanya, I just quit. I'm having some wine. You have to come over. I have to tell you something. And so she had been searching in GitHub, and she saw all these issues. So she had fixed these bugs, these high and critical bugs. And she's like, I did a search on my name, and there were over 100, and they hadn't been merged. And I asked the guy why, and he said, well, because there are still other highs in those apps, and until she had fixed 100% of the highs in those apps, she wasn't allowed releasing. She's like, so then I searched your name, and there were almost 100 from you. And that was like years earlier. And he had been blocking all of the high fixes because I don't release high bugs in prod. And I was like, what? And so there are a lot of people that believe that they are fighting the good fight by blocking you. And so if you see this, please enlighten them as to how we're improving. We're still improving. We're not creating a new bug in high. Does this seem obvious to everyone? Why don't you keep seeing it? Okay, next. Untrained staff. So this one's pretty obvious, but it still happens where a company's like, we're going to do DevOps starting next week. No one gets training. and then guess what happens? Like mistakes, right? Like mistakes where maybe the people in this room wouldn't make it because you're doing continuous learning. If you showed up here, you're here on your own time, and learning is clearly important to you, right? But there's lots of us where, we have little ones at home, or we have a music career, or we have whatever else that we're doing with our time, and we're not taking our personal time to continue to learn, and we're not being supported at work to learn. And then they get thrust into this new thing, and they have no idea what to do, and they're doing the best they can. And so the fix for this is obvious: train your staff. If you're going to ask them to do something new, you train them. And I don't mean you necessarily have to hire a consultant that comes in and trains, or that you have to send them to XYZ school. It could be job shadowing. It could be having a consultant come in and slowly mentoring them over time. There's lots of options, but you need to teach them the things you want them to do. And you're probably like, this is so obvious. I've seen it so many times. How could he put 2 extra zeros on the Kubernetes deployment that cost us $30,000? Well, I'll tell you how. You gave them 0 training, shoved them in there, and then we're like, let's hope for the best, and the best did not happen. Yeah. Forgotten bugs. Don't worry, Tanya. It's in the backlog. That's why I'm worried. I often will work places, and we will, they'll do a pen test or whatever they'll do, and they find a whole bunch of bugs, and they fix 1 or 2 at the beginning, and then they put the rest into Jira or whatever the magical places where those things go. And then they're like, glad that's done. And then they don't fix them. And and then they just stay there, and they're still dangerous, right? Even if they're in Jira, they're still dangerous. What I like to do as an AppSec person is kind of just go and look. I like to look through the backlog, and it's like, oh, this has been here 365 days, and it's a high. Can we talk about this? When were you going to look at this? Because they're getting asked for new features and more high priority bugs like basically things customers noticed or things that made the app fall down or whatever. And they're not necessarily sitting there looking at the security bugs unless you ask them to or you nudge them to do so. And so if you could just search once a month for security bugs of a certain like level, like high or critical or whatever is your jam, and then the age. They're not like wine, they don't get better. And if you could do that and then just like nudge people, be like, hey, I saw this. Can we talk about this, or could you fix it? And then we could not talk about this. Whatever you want. But if you do that, you will see some movement on some things, and it's worth doing. Oh, and that's Dev and Sec, and they're high-fiving. Okay, so no positive reinforcement, negative Nellies everywhere. This might sound weird, but the security team usually comes and gives bad news. Like, who here has had a visit from the security team where they come to tell you that you're awesome and you did something great? Okay, more than 0 hands. I'm pleased. I feel...
Don't be shy.
Yeah, don't be shy. But, like, what if when we looked, like, so let's say we're on number 8 instead of number 9, and we're looking at the age of vulnerabilities. Instead, we also look at who fixed a whole bunch of bugs, and then we call them out for being amazing. What if we congratulated people? It's like, you know, you passed your pen test with flying colors. I'd like to take you for coffee. What if we had like an all-star champion? I worked somewhere once, and they had a consultant that was before me that was mean, and he had a wall of shame that was on the fridge in the kitchen. And he would put a thing of like worst developers who made the most security bugs. And I went to go eat lunch, and I noticed it, and I also noticed no one was in there eating lunch, and they're like, we feel too ashamed to go to the kitchen. And I was like, wow, this is going in the garbage. This has never happened. This is the worst idea I've literally ever heard of. And so I changed it to the awesome page, right? Like, and I didn't have 10. I couldn't come up with 10 reasons that they were good. But at least I came up with 2 or 3 of like, this person fixed a bug in under a day. This person fixed 5 bugs this week. This person shared this lesson with this person, right? And I started having good things and positive shout outs instead, and they started using the kitchen again. And it seems so obvious, right? But so if we could do any positive reinforcement, we will blow everyone's mind, because generally security teams are mean, and you will seem like the most forward-facing security person ever. I'm not kidding. Okay, number 10, only worrying about your part. I'm super guilty. I'm so guilty. So sometimes security folks and DBAs and programmers and everyone, we just think about our part. And a huge part of DevOps, who here has read the DevOps handbook? Okay, and who here has read the Phoenix Project? Okay, so the first way of DevOps, emphasizing the efficiency of the entire system, and then secretly whispering in my ear, not just your part, Tanya. When I was a dev, I'd be like, here's the code. Tough luck with that. Good job, ops. See you never. Instead, now DevOps, we work together, dev and ops and sec, right? And so we have to think about how things affect them too. You should, like, I should not be handing a pen test to them, like the results Friday at 4 p.m. when they're supposed to be releasing Friday. It's like, here, Thursday, just work all night forever. And then you're totally going to not make your deadline Friday. Ha ha. Like, we need to think about them too, and how our part affects their part. And so I'm going to give you a brief example. So I was working somewhere, and I thought I was awesome. I always do at first. And I rolled out this tool, and they had a static analysis tool that no one really liked very much. People weren't logging in, people weren't using it. So I had gotten some of the devs to help me pick a new one, and it seemed pretty good. And I'd rolled it out, and I had this parental dashboard where I could see every project. It scanned everything once a week. When people checked code in, it scanned it. I thought I was awesome. So people would check code in, and then they'd get an email if they had made a new bug. If they didn't get a new bug, they'd still get an email. And I was just like, I'm awesome. And then I had a meeting, or no, I got an email from a dev And they said, could you please stop humiliating me in front of the entire company? Oh, no, what do you mean? And they're like, I checked in my code and I had made a bug and you emailed all 200 devs to tell them I made a bug and I want to hide under my desk. And I did not realize I had set it up so that every single person in the company got an email every time someone made a mistake. And one, I was sending 200 emails a day. And two, I was embarrassing a lot of people. And so I thought I was amazing. I had not been amazing. And so I spent like an afternoon yanking the whole thing out and then 2 or 3 days rolling it out again, which was almost a whole week, right? But then I made it so each dev, only they got the email, no embarrassment. Everyone was not getting 100 piles of spam. You would only get an email if you had checked code in. And so like less spam, no embarrassment. People are getting notified in a timely manner. I was actually cool then. And so I had to listen to them, but I had just worried about my part. I was like, this is great. And it was not great. And so sometimes we have to ask for feedback. Because I was like, what do you guys think? They're like, And it took a brave dev to tell me this was not okay. And so sometimes we have to ask. So next, multiple bug trackers. I haven't seen this as many times. This was less times, but each time it was terrible. So like you'll have some people tracking their issues and maybe like GitHub issues. And then you'll have, like the company will tell you, we use Jira. And I'm like, awesome. And they're like, but also Bugzilla. And also like sometimes we put them in GitHub issues. And also we have like this Excel spreadsheet. But don't worry, there's only 4 copies and most of them are different. It's really hard to keep track of stuff if we have more than one bug tracker, and obviously the answer is only use one bug tracker. Sometimes it's like, well, these teams use this one, this team uses that one, and those ones use that one. But it's really hard as a security person to keep track of this if there's lots and lots of different trackers. So if you have the power to influence, try to get them to use one so that you can see the same things they see and you can all see all the security problems. I don't know, I feel like this one's pretty simple compared to some of the other ones, which is why I put a big broken heart. Next, number 12, an insecure system development lifecycle. So this was the part I alluded to at the beginning. So my definition of DevSecOps is an AppSec person working in a DevOps environment, and you get to play with lots of cool tools and do DevOpsy things. But some people, their definition is, I only do security in the CI/CD. I don't give security requirements. I don't review architecture or design. I don't threat model. I don't arrange the pen test, that be your problem. I don't chase things to be mitigated. I don't give advice on new technology. And and I'm not available because I'm busy being DevSecOps, and that's the only thing I do. And I feel like we can't do good security if we're only little script kiddies using automated tools, and we're not talking to people, and we're not helping them, and we're not supporting them. I feel that every phase of the system development lifecycle, whether you do DevOps, Agile, Waterfall, or whatever else you're doing, if you're wild and you're like, I'm going to do rapid application development because I think it's the 80s, whatever you're doing, you need to have security in each part. Like, we must have some requirements, right? Like, you're building an API, that's awesome. I would like you to use this API gateway or whatever your requirements are. And so I see this where they're like, oh, I'm the DevSecOps person. And yeah, I don't have to do any of that pesky stuff. I just play with automated tools. There's more to it than that. And this, has anyone run into this one? Yep, okay. Only Sam and I are only Sam. Okay, so 13, overly permissive CI/CD. So again, I've seen this one less, but each time it was terrifying. I saw this talk at a Canadian conference called Sector, and this guy named Alex Dow, who's terrifying also, but he's a good guy, so it's not so bad. But basically his pen testing team pen tested a Jenkins instance, and they exploited it 21 times, 21 different ways. one Jenkins instance. He's like, oh, then we got in through this, then we got in through that, then we smashed it this way. And each time they had stolen all the code or got remote code execution. It was so bad. And so it's really important that you protect part of your supply chain, which is your CI/CD. This thing's so valuable, important. Ask SolarWinds. It can be used for evil, right? And so lock it down. Like, some employees will disable tests in order to get to prod. We want to lock this down, not just so they don't disable tests, but for lots of reasons. Like, what if they change some configurations? What if they loosen, like, the reins a bit? Like, many, many reasons. You need to be very careful about who has permission. One more, one of my colleagues hired a co-op student, and they were like, oh, I'm a free-flowing DevOps. Everyone can do everything. Well, the co-op student that's the Kubernetes story, the 2 extra zeros and the $30,000 cloud bill. It was that wasn't locked down. Fun times. Okay, so next. So this is the second last one. Only automating in the CI/CD. So you can automate wherever you want to. You work in computer science. You're literally magic. You can do almost anything. This is the type of, so we want to automate everything we can. We work in tech because we love automation, because we don't want to do something twice. So like Disha said, if you do something 3 times, you should automate it. I would argue, like, on number 2, I'm like, I should probably automate this. Ooh, twice, that's a lot. It's up to you if you want to get to number 4. But basically, we automate things because we want to avoid toil. We want to avoid errors. We want to avoid being bored at work. We want to show return on investment. This thing tends to happen only when you have an AppSec person, I call them afraid of code, but where they've never written code before, they've never seen code before, they're not very comfortable with it. Their last job was QA, compliance, something completely outside of tech. They were late to a meeting one day, and you're in charge of AppSec now. And they're like, oh no, what have I done wrong? And they're in charge of the AppSec program, and they don't understand. You can automate whatever you want. Your DAST does not, well, I don't like to put DAST in CI/CDs unless I'm feeling masochistic, but it doesn't need to go in a CI/CD. You can automate it overnight. You can automate it monthly. You can do all sorts of things with it. But you don't have to automate only there. There's many, many, many different options. And so if you don't know how to automate things, that's okay. You work in a company full of amazing software developers who love to automate things, and they mostly would love to help you because that's some of the funnest part of our job. So if you're like, can I do this with it? Just ask one and ask them to help you, and most of them will say yes. Okay, last one, hiding our mistakes and errors. So now I'm coming back to the beginning of the talk where I said I'd really like it if all of you would try to share lessons learned more often. We can't learn if none of us ever share with each other. If all of us are doing trial and error, this is a very expensive, long, slow way to learn, right? And I know, so who here is not under NDA? Oh my gosh, there's 3 hands. I am impressed. More than 0, 4. Okay, so you all are giving a talk next month, but besides that, even when you're under NDA, there's still sometimes high-level things you can share. And I know we can't share everything. I know we don't always have permission. I'm not asking anyone to get into any trouble, but I wish we would share more learnings with each other, because I had to stumble through a lot of these at first and see my clients get hurt at first. And then they'd be like, oh, this happened, it was awful. I'm like, oh, how can we fix that, right? So I'd like to ask all of you to try to teach someone something this month. It can be a mentee, it can be a person you work with, it could be maybe your significant other explaining what a buffer overflow is over dinner. If you're in my house, but try to teach someone something so that we have less mistakes, because life will be way better if we share more as an industry. And with that, I have a conclusion, and then I have some resources. So we learned some stuff. So some people learn best by what went wrong and understanding why it went wrong. So like just saying a whole bunch of best practices doesn't work for everyone. It turns out that doesn't always work for me, doesn't always work for everyone, so I thought I would kind of go the opposite way, like here's terrible stuff that happened, how can that not happen? We talked about how to see DevSecOps kind of like from the other side, so that maybe we could do a little better sometimes. And we talked about basically most of these were strategies for rollout. Most of the DevSecOps problems are during rollout. Once you've rolled it out and you've ironed out the things, like things are pretty awesome usually. And we wanna have the best rollouts we can. And now I have some resources for you. So the first resource is, this is a link so that you can just go get the slides immediately. I do think, though, that it's actually all lowercase, and I might have fibbed there. So if you type it in like that and it doesn't work, then it's all lowercase, because I thought I was fancy, but it turns out ConvertKit is case sensitive, so forgive me if it's actually all lowercase. The next one is I have an online community that is free, and everything inside of it is free. All the events inside of it are free, all the courses. And there's 8,500 people in there now, and we like to hang out and do stuff together. And there's a bunch of courses on AppSec and secure coding, etc. And this is eventually going to become some grep community, so it's going to move at some point, but it's here for like the foreseeable future. I have a podcast. I already did. It's kind of on pause forever at this point because I have a new job and I'm having trouble doing all the things. But if you wanted to learn more about AppSec, we have 80 episodes about it. And resources me. So I am a nerd that is on the internet. I blog, I video, I tweet. I just try to share as much as I can. And I love hearing from all of you. And so if you were like, this was not that bad, there's lots more if you want. If you're like, that was terrible, don't go there, you'll hate it. And with that, I'd like to say thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Do we have time for one or two questions? Also, I have stickers, a lot of stickers over there, and you can have as many as you want. And if you take them, I don't have to carry them home across the ocean. Yes. So you should take them.
And one very brave thing that Tanya does, she's also on TikTok.
Yeah.
I think she's probably the only AppSec person on TikTok.
I'm the oldest person on all of TikTok.
And for those of you who did not attend, we did have an OWASP London event at TikTok in November. And I thought, okay, we only have one TikTok person, because I went to tiktok.com, search for OWASP, and it was just you. Yeah. Right. Questions. Question number one.
It's kind of a question, or maybe just sharing basically what I had an experience. As you said, you want to share. So as one of the worst practice, like not involving the dev community in the security tooling selection.
Yes, so much yes. So he's saying a lessons learned, not involving the dev team when you're picking tools, total mistake. I agree. And sometimes they help me pick a way better tool.
I mean, it's my personal experience where what we select a tool without them involving, and we end up not been adopted.
Yeah, they won't use it then.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. 100%. I agree completely.
Sure, thanks for the talk. So one thing you talked about was maybe moving long-running or noisy tests out of the critical path of like the CI/CD and doing them maybe as an overnight or a weekly thing. Do you have any suggestions about how to make sure that those things actually have the proper attention paid to them if issues are found and don't become just more forgotten bugs, or whatever the term is that you used? Like if you find something that would have been a blocker, a critical blocker, had it been on the regular path, what do you do on Monday?
So a way that you could put it a bit in the critical path is, so that's the thing that I forgot. So who here has heard of like ASOC or ASPM? So Application Security Orchestration, or I know you made one, I know you know. Or ASPM, so Application Security Posture Management. Basically, imagine the fanciest dashboard you've ever seen, and they suck up the results of various AppSec tools. So some of them, what you can do is you can add a policy to it of what is pass or fail. And so you can have it suck up. So I don't like putting dynamic scanners in my CI/CD because they run forever, and there's a lot of reasons. And so I usually do it like overnight or something. And I realize it's not up to the minute accurate at that point, right? But let's say I run it once every week. It's way more accurate than a lot of other people who are running it once a month, once a year, or whatever, right? They're like, we're doing our annual pen test because we only care 1 day a year. And so you can have that result be automatically sucked up into that. And then if you have a policy and it's like, oh, that's a high or that's a critical, so then it breaks it. So you can have your CI/CD check that. So I know Defect Dojo does that. I think a lot of them do that. So you have it poll it, and then it checks all the ones that are out of bound, and then it tells pass or fail. And that takes the checks like 30 seconds. So it's very fast. My friend was working at Nike, and he took their 11 tools out of the CI/CD, automated them all to run nightly, and then just had it pull that, and their pipeline went from an hour and a half down to 6 minutes. And he was like, they basically put me on their shoulders and took me around, and like, it was really good. And he's like, yes, theoretically, someone could have made a giant bug that morning, and I might have missed it. That's possible. But people are doing crap all the time. And if people were flipping my tools off, people were skipping around, right? So then people were being obedient because the check was 30 seconds. And so he got better results. Another way, so like, let's say you have an asynchronous pipeline. So quite frankly, all of us have more work than we can do in a regular work week. And lots of us also have lives, loved ones, hobbies, things like that, sleep, things we want to do. And so we can't do all the things. So I try to have it run and just send me an email. And then if I have time, I look at it. Because quite frankly, if I give this thing full of false positives to a dev, they're going to resent me. And so it's like, I'll look through it and I can do it faster. And I'm like, oh, these 3 interest me. Let's validate. Okay, so one's real, and I'll go talk to them about it. Whereas a dev, that could take them like 2, 3, 4 hours to do, and maybe they're not sure. And then what they decide is important versus what I think is important, I might not agree with them, and I'm the security person for a reason. And so then I'll try to have like a morning where I dig through the parts that are most important. So like that app's high priority, so I'm going to look through that. That is not perfect, but sometimes I just have to compromise because so I told SemGrep I want us to make t-shirts that say, I am the AppSec team, because more often than not, I've been a team of 1. And like, there's too much to do. So I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
More questions?
Yes, please. Do you want to say it? Oh, okay.
Thank you so much, Tanya, for giving us insights into the DevOps processes. I would like to have a look now from the outside, as you asking for, and especially on web apps. So during the DevOps process, we test a lot. There's a lot of testing. Yeah. But why does nobody test what hits the browser?
What do you mean?
W3C validation. Well, the W3C validator is a two-sided sword. Either you see what problems need to be fixed with your errors and warnings, or you use it to exploit it. But currently we see around probably 97% of everything that hits the browser is failing. Oh. So how can that be? What is going wrong within the DevOps process that nobody checks what hits the browser?
Oh, that's weird. I'm not sure I've seen that. You're walking over like you would like to answer, Sam. Did you want to add?
I have seen it. And basically go to any web page, any website, and then right-click and choose Inspect and open Developer Tools. And then look at the console. And even at the very famous .coms, you see just a sea of red. It's like, failed to load. This is a 404 here. Or there's a font which is missing. And how does it work? Right? So it looks like it's just... no one looks at that aspect. And... I think one of the things that Michael looked at, this is the question, is because there are security bugs if your HTML is wrong, because you can get things like mutation cross-site scripting if your HTML rendered on the page is incorrect. So, I think that, well, I'm not sure if you've seen any tools, but apart from W3C Validator, maybe you found something like it.
No, I gave recently a talk on that, and what we currently see is a global inability to produce valid HTML. What is a fact?
So I can't solve that today, but I do. but he's working on it. But maybe this is something that would be covered by a pen test. So like if there's just errors and it's not security focused, it's hard for us security folks to kind of care. I don't mean to sound like callous or anything, but we have so much to do, right? So if it's like an error, but it's not going to cause a security issue, I'm like, I don't know, maybe I'm fine with that. Like and with all of our tools picking up so many things as well, like I want to focus on the things where I feel it causes business risk. I feel like it could hurt our customers or our citizens, or they're going to steal our money or whatever, right? And so developers not fixing errors and warnings, I don't have the answer to that. But if it causes actual business risk, ideally a pen test would pick that up. A lot of automated tools might miss it, though. I agree with you. I don't think I have an answer, though. Sorry. But thank you. That was great. I feel like we're just making him run back and forth.
Yeah. Exercise. Yeah, I was waiting for that. It's a lot of fun.
We have a throwable mic?
Yeah. So this is a throwable mic.
Oh my gosh, I've never heard of this before.
Oh, it's one of my favorite things here.
I'll switch it on, yeah.
But you can... No, can you hear it?
Not yet, you have to switch it on. But you can ask a question now.
Okay. Actually, it was more of a comment and question on what was mentioned there, but with the WC3 validator, I can hear it working now.
Let's swap.
Yeah. But I had a question with regards to that because...
It's totally not awkward looking at all.
No. It stopped working, didn't it? Yeah.
I think battery died.
Oh yeah, that could be it. Anywho, Chrome can now run completely headless like Phantom.js, so surely like those errors, you can produce them with something like WebDriver, because developers are used to saying, okay, I need to automate, like somebody goes here, clicks on this, and it actually works or not. So you just automate sort of those WebDriver tests, but also include the output from the inspector, and like throws up errors where, like, shows the errors where it comes up for troubleshooting. But I don't know.
No, that was great. I like it when my audience does the work for me and answers their own questions.
Right.
Thank you.
Any more questions?
Hi, great talk, Tanya.
Thank you.
So you mentioned unrealistic SLAs, and I think that's a spot on, because if you put unrealistic ones, first of all, you shoot yourself in the foot. Developers will hate you. So I just want to understand from your experience, what was your thought process when you were determining the SLAs? What was your strategy?
Okay, so each place is different. And so if the culture is we really care about security, you can set, first of all, you can set an SLA, period. I've worked at lots of places where we never have one. And I'm just like pleased if people will do anything for me. And I spend a lot of time persuading and, quite frankly, like bribing people with pizza and other treats. I'm so not kidding. And like just trying desperately to convince them. And so if you don't have like a good security culture, even just trying to set up an SLA and have anyone listen to you or take you seriously is really hard. And so then when I go to set up an SLA, I'm like, what are people doing now? Are they doing nothing? Right? And then I talk to the boss, like, what type of security level do we want? And I often say, so are we looking for perfect security, or just really good security, or not pathetic security? And everyone's like, we want perfect. I'm like, you have 43,000 vulnerabilities in prod. That's a lie. And so I'll talk about perfect security. So I've done counterterrorism, and I was the CISO for the election in Canada for 2015. And we spent like $1 million securing one app because it was so important. We ran a full SAST and had like a full, we had a person come do a code review and run a SAST. We fixed everything. We had another person come with a different code review tool and did another pass. We had a pen tester come. We fixed all that. Then we built an entire returning office, held a pretend election, had another pen tester come, threw fake security incidents at it the whole time, did postmortem, fixed all that, then had the election. Plus we did more stuff I'm not allowed telling you about. And we did that for one app because it needed to be perfect. I'm like, are you doing that? They're like, no. And so then I'm like, okay, so let's talk about what you actually want and what you're really willing to do. And then you can talk about what an SLA might look like. And quite frankly, like if I see the OWASP top 10 in every single app, like we're aiming for not having the entire top 10 in every app, right? Or if like, let's say I find 1 or 2 instances of injection across the entire org, it's like, well, we're going to just destroy injection over the next like 3 months, let's say, and we're going to work on this and this. And then once it's like, okay, so I feel like I have a hold, people are listening, people are fixing some things, how fast were they fixing them? And then maybe I can set the SLA there. Because like you said, if you put an SLA where like, criticals are fixed in 1 minute, highs are fixed in 2 hours, whatever ridiculous, not going to happen process, right? When you do that, you just discourage everyone. And you set them up to fail. And then if they always fail, well, who cares how much we fail by? Right? Oh, we're late? Let's be really late. I'm going to build that new feature. That's way more fun anyway. Tanya just yells at me. And so I think it's important to see how fast they're working and set it there at first, and then try to a bit more, and try to make it a bit more strict over time. And I also like to target like specific vulnerabilities so that we feel like a success when we've destroyed the thing. So it's like we're trying to bring all of it up a bit, but also that's really scary, and let's see if we can just knock that off the map. I hope that helped. But thank you. Okay, so we are going to have a break, and then we have another speaker. Please don't leave. Thank you.
Let's thank Tanya for an awesome talk. Thank you. Right, we're going to go into a quick 5-minute break. Please do grab another drink, use the toilets which are by the lift, so you have to go out and then come back up. Someone should help you to walk back in, look for people with orange Just Eat badges. Please, and please be here at past, because we have one more awesome talk. Okay, everyone, can you please return to the venue because we're about to restart? There's one more talk remaining tonight. Okay, everyone, we're ready for our next talk. So Shruti is actually a very long-time member of OWASP London chapter. I think she's been coming to almost every single meetup that I've been attending from at least 2010, I think, or 2012. 2014 maybe, okay, because, no, I'm pretty sure it was earlier. And Shruti also contributed to quite a lot of OWASP projects as well. And at the moment, she's working on the OWASP developer guide as one of the contributors, which is an awesome project. So, yeah, she's also Cybersecurity Architect 6.6, so she's going to talk to us about how to write insecure code and some other stories. Let's all welcome Shruti.
Thank you. Can you hear me? Anyway, my voice is quite loud enough. So, okay. So a little disclaimer. Whatever I'm going to speak in this session are just my views. They have no reflection on my company. Okay. So as Sam mentioned, I am a cybersecurity architect with 6.6, now a part of Accenture. I started out as a developer. So I do understand the developer aspect of writing code, especially secure code. And I have worked in InfoSec, I've worked in various roles, so I understand where the security people come from. And this, okay, so yeah. And then as we go along, I just want to tell how sometimes architects get caught between developers and InfoSec guys while trying to solve problems, and we see things from both sides. Okay, so this is the agenda for today's meeting. How simple sometimes compromises can be, how to write insecure code, and the need for a developer guide. Now, before I start off, I would like to take a step back and give a little bit of a preface. So, pretty much anything in this world is made up of applications. Operating systems, browsers, firewalls, the underlying operating systems for IDS, IPS, your SaaS tools, DAS tools, anything and everything pretty much apart from bare metal servers are made of applications. Applications are built by developers. Now, any little vulnerability getting in, bash, the bash vulnerability, and then, of course, the supplier chain vulnerabilities, SQL injections, etc. I don't want to say the developers are responsible for it, but kind of they are, in a way. So, I was a developer as well, so I have utmost, respect for developers, having been one. So, what happens is that, on a serious note, when the vulnerabilities do occur and compromises do take place, the problem is the companies get on the, front page news. Okay, fine, they get on the front page news. But what really happens is the real impact, the ancillary impact is on people like you and me, because it's our data that gets exposed if there is a data exfiltration. And where do we end up? We end up on the dark web. And because our identities may get compromised, digital, there may be fraud with our credit cards and our banking accounts, and there may be digital identity impersonation. So eventually we end up as a statistic on an IBM Ponemon report. I don't know how many of you follow IBM Ponemon report. It actually gives the cost of breaches per industry sector year-wise. So now, developers, as I said, I have utmost respect for them. They do write code. They are very creative people. They take requirements and convert it into something really beautiful. But really, they're not security people. So that's one thing. And on the other hand, we have got assurance people who are trying to make sure that the code is secure. Yes, but all said and done, assurance people sometimes are really not from development background. So when they tell the developers that they've got to do input data validation, for example, how do developers do it? So the usual conversation that happens is, do you do input data validation? Yes, we do. Okay, done. Then we see a compromise. Now, the thing is, when people tell developers to do input data validation, they need to map it to something that is tangible, where the developers understand. For example, go do regex. Okay, that's fine. That's not an ideal situation, but at least it is something. Use secure libraries. Again, not a lot, but at least it tells people what to do, and developers can relate to it. So with that background, and because as architects, we get caught sometimes in between because InfoSec people don't allow a release to get out into production, and developers can't really understand how to fix certain issues. Okay. So that's why we have these kind of compromises. They are all related to application. You can go and check them out. So how does it happen really? This is actually from OWASP Shepherd. It's one of my favorite applications in the world. I don't know how many of you use it. It's really, really very good exercise for learning application security. So sometimes your compromises can be as simple as this. Voila, you've got this. So, why does it take place? Because, oh, am I quiet? Okay. So you've got an asset which is of value to an adversary, and then it's got a boundary. Everything has a boundary. And then you've got a threat actor who actually tries to compromise a vulnerability or a weakness, in this case, a SQL injection. And the impact is loss of confidentiality of data. And sometimes the mitigating control could be as simple as query parameterization. So if someone asks, if the InfoSec people ask developers, do query parameterization, probably the developers will do it. So now, having said that, sometimes, as I said, developers are not really security people. So here are some of the conversations that I've compiled over a period of my life in security to, how people write code. And I'm one of them, actually. So one of my experiences actually in this one. So we have people telling us, why do you not do security controls in your application? We don't need to do that. We've got tools to resolve security issues. So I don't have to worry about it. The point is, we do have SAST and DAS tools. Additionally, we pen test everything. Pen test is a cover-all thing. So we don't need, and so we don't have to include security controls in our code. And the second one, I don't know how many of you have come across it. Let me distribute the security controls, checks everywhere, because I want to make my applications secure. So what you're essentially trying to do is security with complexity. And so nobody can really find all the complexities in your code. I don't know how many of you are developers over here, so no offense to anybody. Please, as I said, I was a developer as well, but this is something which you see in life. And then the next one that you hear is, my code is secure. My code is unbreakable. It has never had a proven problem at all. So what we are essentially trying to apply over here is default deny principle. It's a security principle, but applied in a very different way. Okay? And then you got, I like using dynamic code. It loads everything at runtime. Reflection and class loading are beautiful features. Yes, but have you ever done hash? Now, I'm not so much into development, but if you have done any C programming, you would do hash include xyz.h header. So if you don't know what that xyz.h file is, you have a supply chain risk that is materializing. So in the process of nesting dynamic calls to reduce the size of code. Okay. Another one. Let me not include any dynamic, input data validation library on my project. Usually people include them in pom.xml file. They say they don't want to include too many libraries on the project. It loads up. Yes, but what if you do have fields that require input data validation? So what? It is done by WAF. But WAF, it's signature based. What if you create a signature, if someone creates a signature that is not detectable by WAF, why not just include input data validation in your pom.xml file? Then the next one, the language that I'm using is absolutely safe. Right. Okay, I see people relating to it. Okay, so I'm not the only one in this whole thing. Okay. Then the next one, the application has access control methods that I have designed. It works. Yes, in a scenario. Have you considered X, Y, Z, 1, 2, 3 scenarios? Okay, it's anybody's guess. I can write my own logs. I like to write to std out file logs so that I can include the debugging issues. We don't want log4j kind of stuff. Okay, fine. Good luck with that in investigating any possible compromises on your application. Now, just so you know, I've attributed a link over here. Many of these are available on the OWASP site where it says how to write in secure code, but then I have seen all of them, and some of them are from my own experience where I made those mistakes. Then there are some more. So you rely on security checks done everywhere in the code. Okay. And then we can write our own encryption standards. They are going to be more secure. We are going to test them out thoroughly and fully. Yep. Then let's hardcode our keys. Who can possibly want them and what for? Yes. Okay. Then encryption is good. Let's do it everywhere. And this is the best one. Not the best one, but one of the best ones. We have HTTPS. We really can't go wrong with this. And this, a lot of people agree, okay? Not just developers, we have InfoSec people also agreeing with it. I know my own code. I build my own authentication mechanisms. Yes, you have a username table and a password table in your database, and then anybody can do a SQL engine. Pull it out. Yes. Okay, good luck. And then there's no need to apply security controls to sessions. Oh my God, I've heard this so many times. They are just random numbers. How can a session replay take place? Who will want our random numbers? Okay. No, there are no. Yeah, oh, I know. And then hashes. Birthday attacks don't work. They really don't. Okay. And finally, don't worry about it. It's all secure. We have never been breached. I've heard this in every company, every client I've worked for. We are all secure. So, in spite of all of that, we still have these breaches. So, obviously, something is actually going wrong. And really, the impact of this is that the tools capture security defects at a later stage in your development. And tools really do not fix defects. I know some tools claim to fix defects, but they really don't. You need hands-on experience to hands-on work to fix those defects. So for example, missing signatures for encryption of data on a mobile app. There's no way a tool can detect that if you're not actually encrypting your encrypting key on a mobile app. Privilege escalation, for example, it needs to be actually done hands-on in a manual way. Then vulnerabilities, signatures that are hard to detect. So typically going back and fixing defects is a lot of rework. It takes a lot of time. It results into a lot of work. So the impact of this is that the exploitation of vulnerabilities like SQL injection, vulnerabilities in supply chain, or third parties, credential capture, they result into reputational loss for the organization and probably financial loss. So in effect, it actually is going to come back and bite you because it would affect your pay check and your bonus. So make your life simple. Developers, save time on rework. If you as a developer do not put security in your code, no one else will. I promise you that. So writing secure code is not equal to testing the security of the code with tools. So more importantly, if you find a workaround, let your security lead know about it. Tanya, this is for you. Oh, she uses it a lot. So make your life simple. Do all this stuff. Okay, I'm contradicting myself over here. So I'm telling you use secure SDLC, you use secure coding guidelines, manage your licenses, secure environment, and so on. So what is all this so on? What are all these things? That's why, we go one step ahead, and that's why you've got developer guide, which gives you an overarching view of how to build applications securely in a secure manner. So we've got, as a part of our developer guide, architecture and design, threat modeling, secure design, risk assessments, and we have got guidelines, how to do input data validation, how to do auth and .c, cryptography, error handling, images and containers, open source secure software, logging and auditing, infrastructure as code, session management, and there are others as well. And we've got checklists. So what it is really now, sorry, I'll just continue with this. So the developer guide that we've got, it actually helps you, not just with secure coding guidelines, but with the entire overarching view, understanding open source software licensing. I don't know, again, this is something else that I've seen people do it. They sometimes apply a license, but then only during the release phase, they realize that there is a commercial implication to it, and it has not been your MIT license or your Apache 2.0 license. It's something else. You've got to go and pay back to the originator of that open source software. So, all these things matter. And then your environment, your architecture, testing, threat modeling, etc. So that's what the developer guide tells you about. And it helps you find links to the secure architecture, threat modeling, etc. I've put a link on the deck over here to the guide. And this is what it looks like on OWASP.org site. And what it is really not, it does not redefine or reinvent the existing components like threat modeling or web app checklists or secure headers. No, we are not doing that. We are also not being very technology specific because, if you do it for Angular, if you do it for Java, if you do it for C#, C++, etc., it's just going to grow. And also, technology is going to change. What was actually, allow listed characters for input data validation, change to regex, change to input, secure libraries, change to frameworks. So it's really difficult to keep up with all of that. So it's not really technology specific. But if any of you want to contribute in terms of technology specific coding checklist, please feel free to do so. But at the moment, we are not doing that. And this is there on GitHub. These are the links. And this is the developer guide. Let me actually try and open this. Okay, no, I'm not able to open it. There is actually a whole printout of this, the developer guide, which I'm unable to open. But you can go and visit the site. So what we really need is we need volunteers to review the available content, add missing content, and enhance the existing content. That's because nobody knows everything about everything, and we don't live long enough to make all the mistakes in the world and learn from them and add to the developer's guide. And we need to support the community, all of us together, so that we can all benefit from it. And we need a place to go and add our learnings, and we can support each other. So this is the team. This is the project leaders for Developer Guide. Andra is here. Andra, are you here? Andra. Then we got Harold, John Gadsden, myself, and Vandana. So if you want keen to sponsor our project, feel free to do so. But more importantly, we need volunteers, we need reviewers, we need contributors. Come join us and help the project grow and also help our community. So that's all I have. Thank you.
And just to ask, obviously, you are building this on GitHub, right?
Yes, indeed.
So just like all OWASP projects, Secure Development Guide is on OWASP GitHub. So you can just go and contribute and submit pull requests if you wish to contribute. And of course, on the page, you can contact the project leaders. There's Shruti and Andra here.
Absolutely. Anytime. Please contact us. And, there is a lot of content on there. We have also put in a lot of do's and don'ts. What you saw here, it's also there on the project. And they're all marked down files. So it's really easy to edit them, add your content, and then submit it for check-in.
Wonderful. Any questions for Shruti? Oh, yeah, this one. Yeah.
A very nice presentation, by the way. Can I ask, from you yourself meeting different companies and people, what is it with developers usually? Is it that maybe the companies which don't really consider security a really must part of any sort of application? Are they, I don't know, whether they're unaware, uninformed, or ignorant?
No, I think there are multiple. No, I don't think any of those. In my experience, I think there are multiple reasons why people think security as a secondary aspect, especially developers. That's because one of the key things is they are being trained, they are being given a lot of information, and sometimes the actual message can get lost in that plethora of information that they receive. So that's one thing. And second thing is there is always such a thing for speed to market, ship your code into production, that if you can cut corners, people do tend to cut corners. And there is also another added aspect. I don't want to generalize this, and I don't want to say that's one of the reasons, but sometimes security people, they have their best intentions at heart, okay, because I'm a security person myself. Then they say, okay, we've got these tools, we've got XYZ tool, we've got ABC tool, we've got this tool, that tool, we'll capture all the defects. No, but you don't capture all the defects. So that's where I think there are conflicting messages given, and there is a lot of information. But what developers really need is, do this. This will help you achieve XYZ stuff. I think that's the message that is required to be given.
Any more questions? Yeah, that's one more. Oh, two more questions.
Hi there. So sort of following on from that, it seems to me like it's part of a wider incentive structure issue around security versus business and economics, right? If you have to spend time and effort and resources training and the literal temple of security that you built there, I see a misalignment of incentives. What incentivizes, or what in your experience has been a more successful implementation of an incentive structure that gets developers or companies to value security as a part of successful business? Because the way I see it is, if a business sees security as a hindrance to business, like it comes back to also what we were saying about WC3, right? Like why there's so many errors in the browser, right? Well, the website works and people can use it and you make money out of it, so why fix it? Similarly with security, well, the website works, you get the data you need out of it. Who cares if there's an SQL injection that can download the entire database? We're still making 2 million out of this app.
I owe allegiance to the companies that I work for and the clients that I work for. But I can hypothesize and answer your question. I don't know if incentivizing really helps. I think in my experience, what I have always tried to tell developers is, if you do this, this happens. So the simple way to fix this is do X, Y, Z. That has worked in some places. But in many places, sometimes it doesn't work because, as I said, there are the economies to scale, and people receive so much of training and so much of constant badgering to do stuff that sometimes they don't care.
Right.
I'm not generalizing this. I'm not saying this. Everybody does this, but these are some of the traits.
Yeah, I was wondering, like, what sort of successful cases have you seen of like companies that have actually managed to get people to care about security? How did they get people to care more?
So, again, hypothesizing on one of my experience, I used to conduct a monthly session on the defects that I used to see. And I also told them how to differentiate a false positive from a true positive, and also what a true negative actually does to the software. And I couldn't get everybody interested in security, but at least the developers, some of the senior developers and the chief architect got really interested. And so after I started doing those monthly sessions, after a few sessions, I could see a change because they realized the impact of not doing certain things. So that's one of the things that I have, but I can't share any more details about how I went about it and the details on that. Sorry?
Let me get the mic to 1 second.
I think the biggest thing is actually the culture in the company. It's got to come from the top downwards. That's the only way that really security works inside a company. So like, I work for a SaaS company, and the dev guys there, they can send their code out. They get their...
Actually, I do agree it's a top-down approach. But in my experience, if you don't work at the grassroots level, it's very difficult to get that buy-in. work with the developers. That's why I work a lot with the developers. I work with the engineers, because that's where it starts. Even if you can make difference with one developer and one engineer, I consider that a success. So a lot of workshops, a lot of selling, but nothing like, don't do it this way or do it this way. It's the subtle messaging that you need to tell, the impact of what goes, if it goes wrong. I mean, that's what I have seen works to some extent.
And also positive reinforcement, just like Tanya said. That's what builds culture.
Absolutely.
Yeah, there was a question from Sherif.
Yeah, it wasn't a question. But you're talking about the dev guide and contributions. Would you also take contributions from an AI that's trained on InfoSec?
Oh gosh! Oh gosh! Oh good lord! Okay, we'll have to sanitize that. Let me put it that way. Yeah, definitely. Yes. We'll take, but we'll sanitize it.
Any more questions? Yeah.
Building on Tanya's talk about automating everything, how much of these guidelines can actually be automated, and are you looking for contributions on that?
Okay. Let me give a different spin on it. So we've got the developer guide. It's got a lot of things in it. Everything will not be applicable to every situation. It needs to be customized. If you're not using, for example, I'm not saying people don't use it, if you're not having sessions in your applications, why bother about your session? If you look at from that perspective, it's very difficult to automate it. It's best to go to the guideline, see what really works for you, customize it. Then you have something that is really workable. You don't have to keep looking and ticking at everything. Yes, only 5 of these are applicable. Let's go ahead and use that. That really works. Automation, well, it works. I'm a big fan of automation. I have my reservations in this case.
So, any more questions?
So I imagine one thing that's difficult about, so this guide is a great project, it seems like a great idea, but I imagine it's a very difficult thing to actually construct, because when you're trying to teach people about security, it's not like you can often say, give an example and say, if you write the code like this, then it is secure. It requires quite a holistic view to actually write secure code, to know about all these potential vectors that may be relevant and all the surrounding context. How do you write a guide when you can't be that prescriptive or just say, this is the way to do it?
Okay, so it's not really, it is prescriptive to some extent, but what it is trying to do is, that's why we have not gone down to the technology level, because if I were to say, do it like this in Angular, it may not really work like that for React or for C#. So it's at a level where you say, do input data validation, but choose what you want to use depending on the risk that your application faces. So you can go ahead and have a allow list of characters. That is still fine. That is input data validation. Use regex, use secure libraries. So we've given options like that. So when we say use hashing, we say you can use hashing, but if you have a high risk scenario, use hashing with salt. Use the latest algorithms, or if you have a legacy system and you have to use, say, MD5, determine what's the key length that it will get exploited within, and then rotate your keys. Sorry, not MD5. MD5 is a hash. I'm lying over there. So if you're using DES, triple DES, so it can be broken. The key can be broken in 56 days. So rotate your keys in 40 days. You can still do it securely, but you need to know what you have on hand and what are the secure ways of doing it. So that's what we have tried to give in this guide. Not really very, very prescriptive. Do it this way or don't do it this way. No, sometimes in certain scenarios, you may have to do it, but put a security wrapper around it. Does that answer your question?
One more.
How are we doing on time? Oh, we are over time.
Hi, Shruti. Nice talk on the secure code. I just want to ask you about, even though we're making a secure code implementation, there are sometimes the application lacks the lack of validation, like the logic, that's where the business logic vulnerabilities come around, right? So how do we make sure the developers to understand the logic? Because I, as a pen tester, I bypass so many payment gateways with the logical in place. So how can we make sure to developers to understand the logic? This mainly happens in e-commerce applications and the payment gateways for sure. So what do you think on that?
So if I understand your question correctly, you're asking how do we explain the different vulnerabilities to the developers, what you identify as a product of your testing process. Is that correct? Oh, no?
So although we have security code implementation in place for an implement, let's say they have the proper authentication mechanism or proper validation in place, but still the application logs the logic of validation. For an example, bypassing a payment gateway of a flight book taking to £1 or sorry, £1 or something. So these are the cases where the application lacks the logic. So how do we make sure the developers to understand the logic, how to implement that?
Okay. So one of the things that kind of works is, first thing is this authentication, access control, etc. They are features of the application. Yes, they are security requirements, but nonetheless they are features. So if you take away the security part of it, nonetheless they are features. So you test them. Test them as a part of your unit test, system testing, integration testing, whatever you may call it. And then by the time you come to pen test phase, your vulnerabilities would have reduced. I'm not saying it would do away everything, but at least, it reduces the low-hanging fruits. And that's another thing which we have put in our developer guide. Do your security testing. It need not be SAST, it need not be fancy, sophisticated, nothing. Simple testing. Authentication, brute force, try it for 10 times, 15 times. If it works, then your code doesn't work. Simple as that. So you solved it at the first instance.
Okay, let's thank Shruti for an awesome talk.
Thank you.
Okay. Right, so we are